Hey everyone, this is Mike Andes. You're listening to Business Bootcamp Podcast. Today is episode 104. We're going to get a live question that came in on the website, live and in person, from Dave, one of the listeners out there. But before we get started, I want to say a big thank you to our sponsor for today's episode, and that is TopTal.com, TOPTAL.com. And what the TopTal does is gets the top 3% of all freelancers on the web online, and then you're able to use them for anything sort of programming, creating apps, e-commerce. It's essentially all of these other freelance sites online that are out there, but it's really just the top freelancers on this site. And so instead of just having some random person on the other side of the world working on your project, you're able to rest assured that this person has been vetted, they've been gone through a hiring process, and that you're going to be really getting the best of the best. And so if you need anything to do with programming or tech related or anything like that, make sure you let me know. Just drop me an email at businessbootcamppodcast@gmail.com, and I'm going to set you up with Nelson, a friend over there, and he's going to make sure you get set up with the right developer. So that's a lot of fun, and make sure you get in contact with me if that's of interest. Now today, what we're going to be talking about is really kind of like almost part two to last episode 103 on seasonal business. So we did the podcast episode on seasonal businesses and kind of how to make that transition and all of that, and just gave some advice for seasonal businesses. And after that, we had just kind of an influx of questions and from entrepreneurs and listeners out there asking about different facets of seasonal business, whether it be hiring or marketing, etc., etc. And so I just wanted to address one of them today because quite a few of them were about hiring for seasonal businesses. So let's go ahead and play this clip, this audio clip from Dave, who sent in a question from the website. And as always, if you have a question, head on over to businessbootcamppodcast.com and go ahead and record me a live audio clip asking your question. I'll get back to you, and I might even have you on the podcast here live. So let's go ahead and play Dave's clip.
Hi, Mike. My name's Dave. I have a lawn care business in central Wisconsin. It is a secondary form of income for me. I have expanded to the point where I need to hire an employee. However, finding seasonal help is very difficult. I have considered doing snow removal, which would give an employee year-round employment. However, I am not in a position currently to invest into storage, equipment, maintenance, etc. for snow removal. So I'm really just kind of looking for some advice on how to gain and keep quality seasonal help. Thanks.
All right, so this is really kind of almost the opposite of what we talked about in the last episode, where last episode we talked about trying to find ways to make sure that your employees can work throughout your slow times, whether it be the winter or whenever your sales decrease. And we were trying to look at ways of creating new sectors or going into new businesses so that you can create full-time employment for your employees year-round and really give them a security for your best people. And however, this is kind of different. He's trying to look for just the opposite. He's trying to look for employees that don't need that full-time all year round and can only work seasonally when he's really busy, which is, I'm guessing, assuming spring, fall, summer time. And so what I would suggest, Dave, and this goes for not just the lawn care business, but anyone that's looking for seasonal help, is try to find an industry that is completely separate from yours and has a completely different cycle of busy time. So for instance, if you're busy during the summer, look for a business that is busy during the winter, okay? And the reason you want to do this is you can look at their employees, and if they're busy during the winter, but then they're slow during the summer, you can find employees that would be perfect to be able to work for you and then in the winter go back to this other place where they can still get a job and things, and you don't have to feel obligated to provide them a job during that time. So even if you went to a company or kind of watched a company that did mostly snow removal, but actually they were slower during the summer, you might be able to get a couple of one of their employees to agree to work for you from, say, March to October, or whenever you're busy and things are growing and things. And so that's one way to do it. One other thing, though, is you did mention about the snow removal, and I think that's a great idea. Eventually, if you can afford it and things, just because like it's so natural if you have trucks and everything. Like if we were able to do that up here, it'd be great. The thing is, we might get one snow event a year, and it's usually gone within a few days. And so it's really not economical for us to get all this equipment and everything, and then spend 12 hours out of the year actually plowing snow or salting or whatever. And so we don't do that, but it's for a lot of companies, especially down south, the southern states, and where it snows quite a bit for a few months out of the year, and they might have 10 snow events a year or something like that. It makes a lot of sense, and you can make a lot of money, and you already have the trucks and most of the equipment besides the blade and some maintenance and things like that. So that's always a natural progression, and I think that really coincides with our last episode about trying to find a different sector that you can fulfill within your business. And especially with lawn care, a lot of your same commercial clients that you do lawn care, they'll want snow removal. Now, getting though back to your question about hiring for seasonal work, another really good thing to use, and what we've used just recently to hire and find these people that want seasonal work is, well, first of all, typically a seasonal worker is really going to be a student. That's really the easiest form of a seasonal worker, because they're always looking for work from early summer to early fall, and they're able to work 3-4 months full time, and then they can leave and go to their school. The problem with that is they're kind of all there, and then all of a sudden they're gone come come school season. And so that's a tough one. But what you can do, and I would really suggest everyone doing that needs an employee or they're looking for their first employee, is instead of trying to like do Craigslist ads, newspaper ads, all these forms of advertising job placements, whether it be Monster.com or just so many different sites, LinkedIn you can use to hire people or at least post a job opening. Instead of doing that, what I would suggest doing is looking around within your industry and seeing the guys that you use. So for instance, Dave, you do lawn care. You probably see 100 different lawn care businesses over the course of the summer. And what I want you to do is look for the ones that have a young guy or young gal that is working by themselves. They don't really have a big business. Like they don't have branded trucks. They don't have a website. They're not insured and bonded. But they work kind of on the side. They might work for $15 or $20 an hour for people doing odd jobs, spreading mulch, planting trees, trimming some stuff up, cleaning up their property. And if you look for those people, it's really good because they already know how to do a lot of the technical parts of your business, and they typically are being underpaid. So typically they might charge $15 an hour when you could probably pay them $18 an hour, and they'd have steady work with a company instead of having to find that work every single day with different people by themselves. And so that's a good way to do it. We just did that recently. We found someone that we needed seasonal help from, really just a part-time basis when we had really big jobs. And I actually found this gentleman I was doing a delivery, a bunch of material, delivering a bunch of rock, and I was taking it to the same place in the dump truck probably like 4 or 5 times in one day, and he was working there helping this property owner do a bunch of work. And so I just kind of observed him, and then I just told the office, just kind of keep an eye on this guy, and then I pretended like I wasn't the owner really, and just kind of talked to him and said, hey, you should really work with us. It's a lot of fun. We have a good time, and it's a good place to work. And so then I said, hey, if you ever are looking for work, just go down to the office and give him a resume or whatever. And so it eventually worked out, and he just started the other day, and it looked like it's going to work out really good. And really, that was the best way to kind of vet in the hiring process, was to see the individual actually doing their trade, working. In our case, he was doing landscaping and things. But see him doing that, I could tell, obviously tell right away he's a clean cut guy and he works hard, and it would just fit so well with our company. And so I've found that really advertising a job is sometimes negative. You kind of get the bottom feeders, or the people who are on unemployment and just need a couple applications a week to keep their unemployment going, and they're not really interested in even getting a job. Or you're getting the people who got fired last week and the month before that and the year before that, and they're just searching on Craigslist or any other location to just submit a bunch of applications, and they're really not that great of a worker. Typically, your best workers, they're not going to be the people that are surfing the internet for a job. They're going to be the ones that are already employed, or they have their own thing and they're hustling and they work hard. That's the type of people you want on your team. You don't want the person that has been unemployed for 6 months and is looking for work and can hardly hold a job. That's probably the people you're going to be getting at when you advertise a job, especially when it comes to seasonal labor and laborious jobs outside of a professional office type of setting. So that's kind of it for today, everyone. I did want to do an episode a little bit more on hiring and the process that I use and I think is effective for people to use in any sort of business. And like, for instance, when we hire people, we always have a month trial. And so you always want to be careful when you're hiring, because there are certain ways that you can get in trouble if something turns out bad and you have to fire them. There are certain things that protect the employee against you firing them for. You can't just randomly walk in and be like, hey, I'm firing you today. You can get in trouble for that. And so it's a whole lot better here than, like, say, in Europe. In Europe, if you have someone on your staff for like more than 3 months, it's almost impossible to fire them unless they're like stealing from you. And I'm not even joking there. You can't just be like, oh, if they get sick and are off the job for 3 weeks, or they come to late to work every day, it's almost like it's hard to fire. So hard to fire people there. So it's not the same way here. However, there are still a lot of laws that protect the employee, which I think is good. But on the other hand, when you're the employer wanting to look for someone to hire, you want to make sure that you protect yourself. So what we do is we have a month trial where essentially in their employee contract, which if you just hire people randomly, I don't think that's really smart. You should have an employee contract that outlines what they're doing, what they're responsible for, what the grounds of dismissal are. We even have a non-compete clause in ours. So if we do have seasonal workers, they can't just go out and get all our customers that they work on their property and just say, hey, I'll do it for cheaper or whatever. So we do have employee contract. It should all fit in one page, so it doesn't seem like they're signing their life away or signing like a mortgage or something. It should just be one page saying kind of who they're responsible to, what their duties are, what their responsibilities are, a non-compete if that's kind of important to you, and then also outlining this 1 month trial period, essentially saying, hey, for any reason we can, grounds of dismissal can be for anything essentially within this 1 month period, and then upon finishing this 1 month period, if everything's acceptable and all of that, then and only then will you be offered a full-time position. And really entering into the job, or talking to them, you're really offering them a full-time position from the get-go, but you just explain that, hey, like, this trial period is really important to us. We just want to make sure that you're the right fit for our company, and that if it's not working out for you, that you can easily step away. And really this helps too when you're looking at seasonal work, because this employee contract, we have time, so every year we have our employees sign a contract, so that way we really know that people aren't going to drop out mid-season. We know that they are going to work from X date to Y date, and that we can count on them being there and not just dropping off the bandwagon. So I really suggest, if you're not right now, and especially for your first couple hires, it's important, because your first couple hires can really determine the future of your business, whether or not you continue to grow. And it's so important to make sure that those people become very integrated with your culture and are very aligned with your vision for the company. And so you want to make sure that if anything does go wrong, it's not going to derail the business. And so I think, like, at our company, I've made it clear to the guys that, like, it doesn't matter what happens to me or any person, whether they get fired or I have a sickness or something happens to me or any of the guys, like, the business is bigger than everybody. And so if that means we need to fire people, if that means that we need to lay off people, if that means that anything is going on within the business that's hurting the business, that none of our jobs are important enough to hurt the business. So if that means we got to fire people, if that means we got to move people around or promote people, it's all about making sure the business is healthy and sustainable, and making that very clear in the employee contract is important. And we always also make sure that in that employee contract, we even mention things like then they need to be able to get along with their coworkers and be able to not only support each other in the workplace, but also out of the workplace, whether it be social gatherings or when we have team events and things like that. That's all part of being an employee and really a team member at our company. And so if you're not already, I really suggest doing the employee contracts. They should just be like one page, really outline what people are responsible to do. Give them a copy of that. We sign that, and then also they sign that on their first day of work, along with, we get their driver's license information, give them a uniform and all of that. But it's important to have that on file for them and for you. And then when they get promoted, you can always make a new one and change the roles and responsibilities. And so that's just kind of it for today, everyone. I hope, Dave, that kind of answered your question about seasonal employees. There's ways to do it. There's ways to find people. I don't think it's in Craigslist or advertising a job. You might find someone on Craigslist for like a week or 2 weeks, or the guy that if you have a massive job and need some help on it. But to find someone that's going to work 3-4 months or like half a year, or do that year over year for 9 months a year, you're going to be looking for someone that's a little more dependable, that has had a job, that they might even be a little bit skilled. So you'll be wanting to looking within your industry, number one, for people that are kind of doing your work on the side. They don't have their own business. They don't work for another company, but they kind of do things on the side. Look for those people. Look for students. And then also look to industries that would complement yours as far as busy times. So if you were looking at an auto repair shop, for instance, mechanics are typically really good workers that could also do landscaping work, for instance, or tree work or whatever, roofing. And so if they are busy, really busy at a tire place, doing tires at Les Schwab or whatever during the winter, they might be able to work for you most of the time during the summer, fall, and spring when you're really busy outside. So that's it for today, everyone. Make sure you get me more of your questions, businessbootcamppodcast.com. You can leave me a voice note like Dave did, or you can submit a question. And as always, if you are interested in TopTal, getting a designer and being able to get a free trial of up to 80 hours with a designer or a programmer, make sure you email me at businessbootcamppodcast@gmail.com, and we're going to get you set up with that free trial. All right, this is Mike Andy signing off, episode 103 today on the Business Bootcamp Podcast.